All right, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. It's May 11th, 2023. We have one item we need to pull off the agenda. That would be on the consent agenda, item J. Okay. On my far right is Jim Crowd, our county counselor. On far left is Cindy Beck, who's our county clerk. On my immediate right is Commissioner Aaron Mays, who represents District 3. Immediate right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. I'm Bill Rippon, and I represent District 1. Madam Clerk, what's first?
First item is item 2, unfinished business. A, consider authorization and execution of contract C-146-2023 with Game Time in care of Cunningham Rec for the purchase and installation of playground equipment and engineered wood fiber surfacing in Chesney Park at a cost of $146,953.96, including delivery and installation. The purchase is through the Omnia U.S. Communications Cooperative and funding provided by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This has been deferred from the May 4th meeting.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Laurent, Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Department. So as you remember, we were having a discussion about pour-in-place safety surfacing and whether we wanted to do that up front as part of this project. We did reach out to our vendor, and for them to do it, it would raise they'll charge us $64,585 for the entire project.
More.
More, yes, yes.
Quite a bit.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Tim, the money that we have left in the ARPA, would we be able to cover that?
We would, yes, sir.
I think that it would be positive to have this, even though it does cost substantially amount more, in that we look at the lifespan of that surface. Wood chips deteriorate, pack down over a period of time. You're always going to be coming back with more wood chips, adding those.
Absolutely.
And then also to have this surface that's going to have that adaptive qualification, and so we are going to be more adaptive and more accessible to our public.
Agreed.
The pour-in-place gives you a consistent coverage or protection for kids for fall, the fall ratings, and it seems like mulch is never where you need it. At the bottom of slides and things, it just gets kicked out almost immediately.
Correct. I just want to clarify, our goal originally was to do the mulch as would be temporary, because in our minds, we would do the mulch, then we would, what we have done historically in the past is apply for waste tire grants, and we've been successful at getting some of those. We weren't last year, but I think the year before, I may be a year off, I think we got 3. So, yes, I agree with everything you're saying. I just, for the record, want to say that yes, I think having safety surfacing is important, and I have no problem doing this. They do take an extra step that we don't traditionally do, and I think that's why this is a little more expensive than what we would do. Typically, we put curbing around it, we put a gravel base down, and we do our pour and play over that. They're doing curbing and a concrete base, so it will last. It's kind of the Honda Accord model and the Cadillac model. I think both are great. I think this will actually last us even longer.
Yeah, it seems like with the poured in place, if there is vandalism or kids, it's on the edges. They start there. Where you have a concrete edge or some type of good solid edge, they don't tend to tear it up as easy or not even try in most cases.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mays' question.
Yes.
So I mean, this is a significant increase in the price of the project. And with the ARPA funds that we gave you, there's a limited amount of money there.
Correct.
And while there may be money to put this in, how many other projects are remaining in that? Are we under budget on the projects we wanted? Is this going to eliminate another park from getting rehabilitated?
No, it won't eliminate anything. We are slightly under budget, not quite this much, but so we'll make up some of it there. But we will need to tweak some of our future, at least some portion of our future projects to make this up.
So
And those will come up pretty quick.
a couple of years ago, we did, I think, maybe 10 playgrounds,
I think it was 11, yeah.
and they were about $25,000 to $30,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So for this amount of money, we could probably do 2 more playgrounds somewhere else.
When we did those playgrounds, we worked with, actually this playground manufacturer, and we purchased, for lack of a better term, sort of a bulk price. You know, it was discussed as a grant. I think it was an incentive, and most of those playgrounds that we bought were for younger children. So, and they were all very similar. What we've been doing since then is a little bit different. We've been trying to be a little bit more unique or specific to the area that we're at, and making sure we're meeting the needs of all the kids. So I don't know that we can necessarily draw that comparison, take that special deal that we got and extrapolate that out. But we've already outlined, and I'd be happy to come up I don't have that with me, but come up at a later date and kind of outline our future plans. But we're moving ahead on these other projects as we speak. We just haven't been up here yet asking for approval.
So are there other ADA parks near this one at all? ADA accessible parks, playgrounds?
I had my list with me last time. I don't think so. I think that's why this is a good idea.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking is because obviously, like, we want to be ADA accessible in as many parks as possible, but we also need to be good stewards of the funding. And if this is going to be something that we have to do on every park moving forward, are we setting a precedent that every time we do a playground, we're going to do this $65,000 extra?
That wasn't my intention. I think when you look at our ADA transition plan, it has designated parks in different areas that we should be focusing on. This is one of them. So I think this makes sense. I think we will have to have these discussions as we move forward. I do think the idea of applying for grants makes a lot of sense. And if, you know, perhaps in the future, we try to get ahead of that, apply for the grant before we're up here asking to do the project, or, you know, work out the timing. But instead of putting the wood chips down and then coming back later, we're just saying that we've been approved for the grant, we'd like to move forward with the project, which would be the surfacing and the playground equipment.
So when we've gotten those grants in the past, what has been the cost? Because you said we
Yeah.
do it a little differently.
Yeah, typically, and what we've been seeing since I've been here is we've been somewhere around 35 to 40 grand for these types of projects. It depends on the size of the playground and what you're doing. Somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000. So, and the waste tire grant is usually would pay for half of that. It's matching funds, so it would cut us down from, you know, 40 to 20,000. So it's pretty significant.
Okay. I mean, I'll just say, well, I think this is, the pour in place is something that we probably ought to do. I would prefer that we go that route than do it this way. I think if we can save $40,000 down the road because of it, then that's what we probably ought to do. I mean, we can make that $40,000 do a lot of impact elsewhere.
Now, there's no guarantee we'll get the grant.
There's no guarantee
But-
that we'll get it, but, you know, to not even try, I think is, I mean, we can come back and spend the $65,000 later if we really want to.
Right.
I just think, I don't know that I'm supportive of this.
The the grants are usually separated by county, how much money they bring in from used tires, so
Yeah.
it's not terribly competitive in that regard, because our competition would be whoever's here in Shawnee County, I suppose. But this project too, do you recall the height of this place? Because that can have a big difference on how much the thickness of the chrome rubber. I didn't know if this is a particularly high, had some high areas that,
I believe 15 feet
Okay, that's
is
pretty
the
tall.
height, is the max height, but,
because then that,
yeah.
they think that, okay. Yeah, I do, I would rather go with the crumb rubber, they're poured in place. And I think that would be it would just save us a step down the road, make it accessible, but I just think, yes.
And I don't want to interrupt you, so, but I don't disagree that the pour in place is a better option. But you mentioned competition with other counties for those grants, but with the way we're doing this here, there's no competition between companies. I would prefer, if we're going to do pour in place, that we send it out for a separate bid then, because the other bidders on this project did not get a chance to offer that. And so my preference would be either we approve it as it was originally presented to us, or we send it back out for bid, and with this component, so that any other companies that want to bid can.
Just to clarify, we were using a purchasing co-op, so we didn't bid this out. We
Oh.
went,
Tim, is there a co-op for poured in place?
we have a contract
Oh,
with a
yeah,
vendor
that's
that
right.
we use,
That's right.
tailor-made.
So,
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
yes.
Tim, if we put this, we entered into this contract here today, and if you contact TaylorMade today, would you be able to have a port-in-place arrangement at the same time as Game Time putting in the equipment?
I would have to ask.
I mean, are the
I'm not
two-
sure what their
Are
schedule
Game
is.
Time and TaylorMade going to be able to work together?
Yeah. That was our, this contract, Game Time, they're putting the curbing in. So they were, in our minds, setting it up for pour in place. So the question would be, what's TaylorMade's availability? How soon could they get there to do this portion of it? We could ask Cunningham here or Game Time to remove, to take the wood chips off and just put it in, but I'm nervous to do that because I wouldn't want to do that until we knew we were able to coordinate schedules. Because the last thing I want to do is put a beautiful new playground in and then have it roped off and not let people use it, or have someone use it when they shouldn't be in there and get hurt. Takes some coordination, but we can look into it.
If we were to enter into this contract today, when would Game Time be putting in the equipment?
So I asked that question this morning. So anywhere from 14 to 20 weeks, depending on the shipping, when they get the equipment. They thought, so it'd put us mid-August, mid-summer to early fall.
What would be the difference if we went with TaylorMade, generally speaking? Is it going to be less than 64,000?
It will be less, because they're not, TaylorMade won't put down the concrete base. We'll do a gravel base. And a lot of this expense is in that concrete base. They do the concrete curbing as well as a concrete base. So it will, there's no question, it will extend the lifespan of this pour-in-place surfacing, but it does make it quite a bit more expensive.
What's the use factor on Chesney Park as opposed to some of the other parks? Is it a heavily used park?
I believe it is. And we've had conversations with the neighborhood association about this project. They, I believe, had tried to get some funding through the city, which didn't happen, but I believe it's used pretty heavily.
Being a heavily used park, does that impact whether we would have a gravel base versus a concrete base?
I honestly think that both of these things are acceptable. it's probably gonna shave, I'm not an expert, so I don't want to throw it, I don't want to throw some time out there on how much longer that's gonna last compared to the gravel base. But we've had really good luck with gravel base. I mean, that's what we've done everywhere we've been since I've started here.
Well, in all due respect, even though you may not be an expert, you're a little bit closer to it than I
Yeah.
am.
I think that if you just think about it, if you've got a smooth concrete pad and you put the pour in place over it, and as people walk on it and as it wears more evenly. There's not, that's the benefit.
I absolutely hear everything that Commissioner Mays is saying, in that it, in some ways, feels rushed, that we're doing this without applying for a grant, that it's going to be, at least an additional $20,000 from what we would have seen otherwise. That's $20,000 that didn't go into another park, but we also have to look at what's the subsurface going to be. Is a gravel base or a concrete base going to be better for Chesney Park in the long run? What's going to be the life expectancy? What's going to be a better purchase price over the long haul? I think it's important for us to replace the equipment, not delay this purchase, so that the park can be refreshed. While it may be at the end of the summer, but at least we'll have it still usable this year with the new equipment and the new playground. I think that, sometimes we can, what I don't want to do is save a penny but cost ourselves a pound down the road when we have to replace it. And that was my fear, as Commissioner Rippon was talking last time, was we have the cost of putting down wood chips, and then we pull up the wood chips to put down the pour in place, and then we basically paid for it twice. And so if we're going to do it, let's do it right from the get-go.
There's another issue. Are we through?
Yeah, I'm done.
There's another issue with the wood chips. They go down like a foot
We do.
and with this mulch. Well, that's a lot of space to make up, because when you do the pour place, you're only talking about three inches or so of
Yeah,
so then you have to bring material in to.
Well,
Grade up the grade.
just as a reminder, we're going to do the concrete curbing anyway, so we probably would have filled it up to the curbing. We probably wouldn't have gone as deep because it was temporary.
Yeah.
And then once we were ready to do it, we'd probably, what was remaining, we'd scoop up, probably use somewhere else.
I noticed there's quite an expense in just doing the concrete border. That was
Yeah.
like $8,000. Maybe, what would happen if we would remove the concrete border, and that would save us $7,000. And then you have about $11,000 in your mulch.
I wouldn't be in favor of removing the border, to be honest. I think that, as you mentioned earlier, the edges are some of the areas where these start to fail the earliest.
It's a cleaner look.
And I think it protects those edges.
Commissioner Rippon, I do have an additional question.
Yeah, I do too.
Tim, if we do this, and this makes this now Chesney Park a ADA accessible park, do we have concrete paths to and from the playground equipment?
We're doing that as part of this project.
So then we would be
Ourself.
able to have this as a completely certified ADA compliant park.
It will meet all of the ADA requirements as they were laid out in our transition plan.
And I think that's an important piece that Jim Crowell and his office has been working on to make sure that we are ADA compliant.
So, if I may, a lot of good points. I think I'm not saying that I don't want it to be an ADA park, but,
Sure.
When we talk with Kurt, we have gravel roads in the county, we have chip and seal roads in the county. I mean, concrete's a better surface than chip and seal, but we have a lot of roads that we have to do, and we can't put concrete on every single road in Shawnee County. And that's, I think, where we're at right now, in my mind, is we've got a way that we do this. This is not the way that we typically do it. The way that we typically do it would save us $20,000 approximately, or maybe more.
Maybe.
But it isn't offered to us as an option today, but that doesn't mean it can't be. And so we could make it an ADA compliant park without doing it this way. And it would still be, it would accomplish all the same things,
Yeah.
but it may or may not last as long. But if in that process, we can take that $20,000 and maybe come closer to making another ADA park down the road in a different part of town, I don't see why we wouldn't do that. I mean, just because this is the option presented to us today does not mean it's the only option. I mean, that's a false dichotomy to think that it's a yes or a no in this way. I think that we could easily, maybe we don't approve it with the wood chips, but maybe we just go back and do it the way we normally do it. And I don't know why Game Time didn't present us that option as well. Are they not, are they just unwilling or unable to do that?
I don't want to speak for Game Time, but I believe that's the case. They have a very specific way that they do it, and I think they do it because if they're going to put this in, they feel like this is the best way to do it, and I assume that means we won't be coming back to them later saying this pour-in-place surfacing is not holding up. They're not the only playground manufacturer that does that. That if they do the surfacing for you, they require certain things, and essentially this concrete base. But again, like I said, I know a lot of municipalities, I know Shawnee County, that do a gravel base. I know there are some that don't do any base. I would definitely not recommend that, but yeah, they just
You said
skim the
base.
ground.
You
Huh?
you said base, or are you talking about the edge?
Base, yeah, period. I mean, they'll
concrete
skim the
underneath.
ground and, you know, pour the pour and play right on top of the ground. I don't want to do that. I think you got to have some sort of base for drainage.
But they put concrete under that?
Yes, that's why this is so expensive, is there's a concrete curbing, but a concrete base.
We used to put it on more like an AB3 or gravel type base.
That's what we're doing.
And that's what Taylor made, and that's why there's the cost increase.
Right.
So,
I can see that.
Commissioner Rippon, I have a question that might, if we're 14 to 20 weeks out from delivery, would you be able to contact TaylorMade in the next 7 days and be able to come back to the commission to see if
Yes.
TaylorMade would be able to do a pour and play on a gravel base in 14 to 20 weeks?
Absolutely.
And would you have them do the concrete edging then? I think they do that as well, though.
I think we have a concrete vendor that has been doing that for them, and then they just show up and handle the surfacing. So we could I know right now that they would be willing to do that. So I could come back in a week and have a cost for you for our own concrete vendor to do the curbing and for TaylorMade to do the surfacing as an alternative to this.
So I think that Commissioner Mays is absolutely also good points, that we have limited amount of resources and a lot of parks to address.
Absolutely.
So
I
I
agree.
would make a motion to defer for 7 days, to come back next Thursday.
Okay.
I'll second.
So, can I just add one thing before we vote?
Look at my.
I want to also make sure that if we do this, if it's possible to do this with the gravel through TaylorMade,
Yeah.
that we're not also paying for the wood chips at the same time.
Absolutely. We will
Okay.
get that out. Yes, for sure. They did remove that from this new revised quote.
What about 2 weeks?
Could we make it 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I would prefer that.
yeah. I know that there is, yes, I'll talk with Game Time. I know they have some language in here about quotes only being good for 30 days. We're not pushing it that far back. We'll check with them too to make sure they'll honor what they've quoted us to this point.
Just to be clear, we have a motion by Commissioner Cook and a second by Commissioner Rippon to defer this item for 2 weeks. Is that correct?
Well, the motion
As
was for
as
one.
amended, I would
Amended.
accept the amendment to 2 weeks.
2 weeks. All right, I'll second that. All right, Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim, and, all right, next item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda, and I mentioned earlier we're pulling item J.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next.
Item 4, county clerk, our new business, county clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Commissioners, we have vouchers this morning that total $2,667,636.24. Some of the highlights out of that are under county project, the Electronic Technology Incorporated for $52,034.24, which is the sheriff video wall. Under the equipment fund, the Kansas Highway Patrol, $58,700 for the purchase of 2 Dodge Durangos for the Department of Corrections. Under general expense, Forvis LLP for $38,850 for the 2022 audit. Under the general expense under contingency is Samco Incorporated for $21,411. That's the repair of the fire service line for this building at 707 Quincy. And finally, under special assessment, SBB Engineering LLC pardon me, for $16,599.60 for design engineering for Timber Ridge subdivision. I do not have any questions regarding the vouchers and would move for their approval.
Second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I would move that we approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Next item.
Item B, Human Resources, number 1, consider approval of the 2022 to 2024 Teamsters Addendum Agreements, Contract C-151, 2023 through C-155-2023 with the Clerical Corrections, Health, Parks and Rec, Parks and Public Works bargaining units.
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis with Human Resources. I have Mike Scribner, the Teamsters President, with me today to present these Teamsters addendums for 2023 and 2024. There are no changes to the master agreement this time. In 2023, all Teamsters clerical employees will receive a 9.7% scale change increase and applicable step increase on July 1st. In 2024, all Teamsters clerical employees will receive a 3% scale change increase and the applicable step increase on July 1st. What this means for clerical is that wages will start for office assistants 2s and the applicable across the board at $15 an hour minimum. So that is a fairly significant increase, and we hope that it helps to increase the amount of clerical employees we have apply, and the scale will go up along the way so that everyone sees the same 9.7% increase. In 2023, for corrections, the employees will receive a 3% scale change increase and the applicable step on July 1st. There is a reopener for 2024 corrections wages. In 2023, the health professional and support employees will receive a 3% scale change and the applicable step July 1st. In 2024, they'll also receive a 3% scale change and increase for July 1st of 2024. Parks and Recreation employees in Teamsters will receive a 3% scale change increase and the applicable step increase on July 1st. And again, there is a reopener for parks in 2024. Last but not least, our Public Works employees who are Teamsters will receive a 3% scale change and applicable step in July 1st. And for 2024, they'll receive the same. Mike and I would like to thank our negotiating teams for all the work they did getting the addendums to you for approval, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
Angela, I just want to thank you for all of your hard work and all of the work of Mike Augustine in your office, everything that's been done there. I also want to thank the bargaining units for all of their hard work and the Teamsters. Mike, being able to attract and retain employees has been critical for every business, especially in Shawnee County, for government services to have those continuity of services. It's been being able to attract and retain. From the Teamsters perspective, are these things going to help us keep the employees that we have and attract new employees to Shawnee County?
Absolutely, Commissioner Cook. The last time I was here, wasn't here, it was across the street, but the last time that we spoke, we're going in the right direction. We need to continue to go in the right direction. We're seeing vacancy levels come down in different areas, and the help with the clerical unit this time, my hope is, and our hope is that we start seeing the same there.
Thank you. And as always, there's always an open line of communication between your office and Human Resources, and I appreciate that open line of communication. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think if you ask, we have a lot of department heads here, I think if you ask them all, the office assistant 2 position has been one that's been exceptionally hard to fill for the last year or two. And so I think this is a big step in the right direction to make sure we can fill those positions. So appreciate everybody's hard work on this.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner May, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you very much. Next item.
Item C, Department of Corrections, number 1, request approval for travel to Franklin County, Ohio to inspect specialized mental health detention facility and program to be funded by the National Stepping Up Program.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. This request is just for 2 employees with the Shawnee County Department of Corrections to travel to Columbus, Ohio to look at a recently built, it's in the 2nd phase. They have created and have implemented their new mental health and medical area, which we're going to go up there and look. Stepping Up as part of that, they have a program and a grant program for peer reviews, and this is one of the things that we're going to take advantage of traveling up there. In fact, Shawnee County was selected by 3 other counties later in June that they're going to be coming to our facility and looking at the things that we have in place with restoration and things like this. This is paid for by Stepping Up. This is going to be a tremendous value for us to go up there, look at their philosophy on how they put their behavioral health care unit together, the mechanical areas, you name it. We're going to be able to go through there in 2 days, thoroughly look at this. This is going to be a $500 million project that Columbus, Ohio is putting together. It's one of the leading facilities. I'm not asking for $500 million unless we got it, but I can tell you that their facility is bigger, but they're sparing no expense. The majority of it comes from litigation and of not meeting standards. And I'm not concluding that they didn't meet any standards. This is what they've decided that they need to do for their jurisdiction. And but this is a tremendous opportunity. In fact, they have the same healthcare contractors armor that we do. So this is going to be able to help us with continuity of care. Again, we'll be traveling up there. This is paid for. We'll be reimbursed of any expense and things like that. And I would stand for any questions you may have.
Question? Yes.
Brian, the commission approved a $10 million in bonding for the to address mental health at the Shawnee County Jail. How does the Stepping Up project factor into what we're doing with the renovations to the Shawnee County Department of Corrections?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things I want to look at is that there have been several different ideas floated out there as far as physical plant-wise on how to build a mental health. There are some facilities that have an open bay area, which I'm not ready to take that step. I just don't think we're ready for that. But this is going to be, with the Stepping Up grants, this gives us the opportunity to see some of the leaders in the United States on how they built their facility. This is going to give us some ideas, I think, a lot on how they were isolated, this challenging population. This gives us the opportunity to do it without any financial burden as far as us traveling and looking up, and gives us the opportunity to meet with some other experts on how they have addressed these issues. I think a big thing that we're going to have to look at is the mechanical part of this, is the HVAC systems, how they did it. All of that's going to be doing this. So Stepping Up is going to play a tremendous part, because as we have about 7 different areas of statistics that we have to keep. By us being able to renovate and improve our systems through stepping up, this will allow us to continue to provide good services, to help us me to keep from having Jim look at everything all the time, because we do keep his office busy. But this cooperation with Stepping Up has been very financially good for us, and is giving us some tremendous ideas, being able to look at how we can do this.
Commissioner Mays?
So Brian, do you know yet who's going?
Yes.
So I think this is a great thing. Honestly, I think it's fantastic. It's free too. So we're gonna have to pay for it. But I think one of the things that's really neat about this is that it says here you're traveling with officials from Johnson County
Yes.
as well. Part of what we're doing with this mental health unit is we view it as a regional asset rather than just a Shawnee County thing. And so it's great that we've got partners just up the road that are willing to kind of work with us on this. And I would ask that while you guys are there, maybe take some pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Take some notes, and then maybe, if the chair is amenable to this, maybe making it a work session topic once you get back, so that we can kind of go over what you found out.
Yeah, I would like to, and that's a good point. I would like to, as we're working through these different phases, and where I think we're going through almost, I think, Jim, phase 2 and heading into phase 3, we're going to be meeting with vendors here pretty quick, stuff like this. I'd like to work with Jim on putting together a work session on how we work through this process, and then going there and then looking at the designs and the pictures of this facility and things like that. Yeah, I think that would be a very good, very wise. And the one thing is that Shawnee County is leading the way on several things, and we just had a very good meeting earlier this week regarding restoration with some judges, representatives from Larned, and how we're getting the big issue of medication over objection to get people restored their competency. So Shawnee County is moving ahead, and others are taking note, and I think we can help other jurisdictions meeting this need in a partnership in Northeast Kansas, and whomever we can help and stuff like that. So I think that, and I still have calls and messages out to the state of Kansas and our some congressional delegates and stuff like that to look at possibly helping us find grants that can help fund this facility as well, which I think is going to be huge, because we do hold federal inmates, and we hold other people, and I'm going to try to even talk to people from the city of Topeka, because we hold people from the city of Topeka on their ownership in this facility. It is going to have to be a community-wide, and we have community members that are partnering with us, educating the community on the need for this. Yes.
That's great. Can't wait to see what you bring back.
Yes, it'll be interesting.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item D, Public Works, number 1, consider awarding a bid to Bettis Asphalt and Construction, Inc. of Topeka, Kansas for the Nottingham Road Pavement Reclamation Project, Southwest 33rd to Southwest 37th Street, more or less, at a cost of $799,587.71, and authorization and execution of contract C-158-2023 for same. The construction will be paid using funds from the 2023 Public Works operating budget and the Public Works Special Highway Fund.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. Just to kind of refresh your memory, this is a heavy maintenance project where we're going to completely rebuild the pavement structure under Nottingham Road between about 200 feet south of 33rd to approximately 200 feet north of Southwest 37th. The Commissioners kindly gave Public Works permission to solicit bids on April 6th. And then the ensuing 20 days, effective April 26th, we received 2 great bids, one from Bettis, one from Sunflower. For the purpose of the record, Bettis got the lowest bid at just shy of $800,000. We think it's a great bid. Next week, we have a pre-construction conference scheduled where we'll go over the work that Bettis is going to do, because we've provided a couple options on the project. We'll talk about schedule. And then we'll think about getting word out to the public, because we are going to close Nottingham Road. We're going to start May 29th, and by contract, the work has to be done. The road has to be open by August 11th. And again, we'll work with a number of parties to get the word out about the closure. So I'm here before you asking you to approve the contract and to execute it through your signatures, and I look forward to your questions.
You say it's the timeline from May 29th to, or no, that wasn't
We'll,
right.
we'll issue a notice to proceed on May 29th. By contract, the work has to be done by August 11th.
August.
And, but that doesn't mean that the contractor is going to take all that time. If the weather cooperates, I believe they'll be able to finish much sooner than that.
Okay.
Commissioner Rippon.
Yes.
So during your presentation, you said a couple of times, great bid.
Yep.
Last night at the JADO meeting, Councilman Neil Dobler mentioned his concern over the cost of road construction projects on the half-cent sales tax, and that with the inflationary word that is almost a daily heard, is look at prices. How does this project, just so that educating us and educating the public, how much change would we have seen from a couple of years ago on a project like this?
That's hard to say. You know, I've talked about our bridge projects in the past. For what we could build for $600,000 just a couple of years ago, it's now costing us well over $800,000. As far as this project goes, I'm confident 2 years ago we could have built it for cheaper than $800,000. How much, I don't know. I agree with Mr. Dobler. Construction prices are definitely going up faster than inflation, cost of living index might imply. We'll have to deal with it. On our sales tax projects, we may have to cut some, now I wouldn't say amenities, but we may have to kind of abbreviate a portion of our projects to meet the budget constraints. But we're going to continue to move forward and see what happens.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're making sure that people understand that the dollar doesn't go as far as it used to,
Not
especially
near-
when road construction.
Not nearly, you bet.
Any other questions?
I'll move for approval.
I would second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Kurt. Next item.
Item E, County Councilor, number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2023-32, adopting policies and procedures for property tax relief for homesteads.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kyle Edelman with the Shawnee County Counselor's Office. We're asking the board approve and adopt the resolution which implements policies and procedures for processing applications for property tax relief for homesteads and certain buildings or improvements that are damaged and destroyed during a disaster. Types of relief that a property owner would be eligible for would be an abatement of property tax or a credit for property taxes payable up to 3 years after the event. Sort of the procedure that it would go through is they would submit an application to the clerk's office. That application would then go to the appraiser's office for an administrative review just to ensure basic eligibility requirements are met. Following that, assuming they pass the administrative review, the appraiser's office and the clerk's office would prepare a summary for the board prior to the board's consideration of the application. And then the board would consider the application in the summary and make findings and enter orders. I guess just time frame. Generally, the applications would be due by December 20th of the year following the event. There is a look-back provision for properties that were damaged between January 1st of 2019 and December 31st of 2021. Those property owners would have have to apply within 120 days of adoption of the resolution. I guess
If a person, say the tornado wipes out their house, would that tax relief happen that year? I mean, would it be would they prorate it back to?
So that's where you
time
get
of the
into whether or not they're eligible for a credit or abatement. So if the property is damaged between January 1st and August 14th of any given year, and they have not paid any property taxes on the property, they would be eligible for an abatement. And the board would consider whether or not to abate the full amount of the property taxes that they owe or a lesser portion. For all other properties, if they paid or partially paid the property taxes, they would be eligible for a credit. And that credit, the board would have the option to spread out over the next 3 years. So basically that year, the next year, and then the third year.
In preparation for this presentation today, it's my understanding that Shawnee County has had already several homesteads that could or may qualify for this, but aren't currently able to apply, and this would enable them to be able to take part in that?
That's accurate, and that's kind of why we included the look-back provision. It would include, I think we've had up to 5 homeowners or property owners inquire, and they're sort of waiting for a procedure to be put in place so they can move forward with their application.
Okay.
So currently, if somebody's house burns or whatever, are they responsible for the full amount then for the year? Or?
Yes, so this would give them some relief from essentially if their home burns down, obviously their property is not worth what it was assessed at, so this would provide them some relief.
And they wouldn't see any relief till it was appraised again at the beginning of the year?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll move. Commissioner Mason, unless you've got any
No, I don't
questions.
have anything else to
I'll move for approval of this.
I'll second. Motion's been made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Rippon. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Next item.
Item 5, public comment.
I don't have anyone signed up. If there's anyone here who'd like to speak, this is your chance. Gone. All right. Next item.
Item 6, administrative communications. Yes, that would be you. It's the Brian Show.
The Brian Cole Hour.
I wasn't paying attention. Good morning, Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I have 2 items. One of them is that this is National Correctional Officers and Employees Week. And the reason I asked Mike Scribner to stand by also is Mike has been, and I always would consider him as part of the Department of Corrections, just because he served next to me in many deeds and stuff like that. But I just wanted to say thank you to Mike. Even though he serves in a multiple role with the Teamsters, Mike and I have been through many battles, and he's got my utmost respect, so I wanted to say thank you, Mike. But since the presidential proclamation was made official in 1984, the first week in May has been set aside to remember the work and the sacrifices of America's correctional officers and their employees. This week, known as National Correctional Officers Week, was created by President Ronald Reagan, who said, "The professionalism, the dedication, the courage exhibited by our staff throughout the performance of these demanding duties, often conflicting roles, deserves our utmost respect. The important work that our correctional officers often do does not receive the recognition from the public it deserves. It is appropriate that we honor the many contributions and accomplishment of these men and women who serve a vital role in the field of corrections." In 1996, Congress expanded this to include all employees that worked in the department or worked in the field of corrections, because our support staff, whether it's our record staff, our maintenance staff, you name it, our custodians, they add to the safety and security. They go to another level of training that goes beyond, and when we go through union negotiations, that often comes up, is that they have to go through a different set of training, a different mindset for our support staff when it comes to that. So, being somebody who's been in this field for almost 35 years myself, this is important that we say thank you to the staff there and all of our county employees. This week we do have our staff appreciation, which will be serving our food, but that administrative staff, captains, we pay out of our own pockets, no taxpayer money, even though we are taxpayers, I guess, or I hope so. We pay for it out of our own pocket, and we do that. We serve today, and we stay on site all the way from, they've already started setting up this morning, and we'll be here till probably about 4 in the morning. This is not near enough on our behalf to say thank you for the job they do, because I'm not always there, but this is the staff that work the shifts. We don't get to hold up a vacancy sign, or in the old days of Andy Griffith, we don't get to say somebody go home and show up back on Mondays and stuff like that. So with that, I want to say, first of all, to you commissioners and everybody in this room, thank you for your continued support, your partnership. You've all made us a successful operation. And to the Teamsters Union, Mike knows how I feel about him and the cooperation we get. I think Angela would say that our relationship with them is outstanding. We're able to work things out. But I just wanted to throw that out there and say thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to say is that starting next week, we're working with Public Works, and I first want to give man, they know their stuff out there, so I'm just going to say that right up front. But we're going to be shutting down the north parking lot, all of the whole parking lot for approximately 3 weeks to do the first, I think the second phase. We already did the back parking lot. So it's going to be closed. We have put out notices at our front lobbies. We put it out on our website where we've notified the law enforcement, the public defenders, and I also wanted to say we're going to have this parking lot closure. There is parking on the street, and I have worked with the city of Topeka that we can utilize the parking across the street. No permits needed. They're not going to enforce any parking or, restricted parking. They've opened their arms to us to be able to say, yes, you can utilize that. So we're hoping that everybody will get in. They'll be on site. We're closing everything down Monday. They'll be on site on Tuesday, and they're going to be going right at it. Weather permitting, we're hoping to get done in 3 weeks. But we put out plenty of notice to everybody. There will be appropriate walking areas for people to get to the facility. Law enforcement will be notified. So I just wanted to make sure publicly that everybody knew that. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Mays.
Well, I certainly appreciate your employees, and I think it's great that you do that every year with the, serving them lunch or dinner or whatever the case may be. In relation to the parking lot, though, is there going to be signage at all? And if not, you might want to work with Stephanie and see if she can get some signs printed up.
Yes, we are
for
going to
you.
put signage
Okay.
and laminated signs out on the facility. We'll do it in the front lobby, so staff, we've been advising the public for the last few days. We will have walkways and laminated signs in the front that direct people where to go, and walkways and stuff like that. And we'll make sure that some of the area is through the grass, and we'll make sure that it is properly maintained and mowed. Any slip hazards and stuff like that, there'll be yellow fencing and stuff like that. So we got that up and working with the contractor and Kurt and his staff and but there will be signs up there that will divert people to where they need to go, yes.
Okay, thanks.
I concur. I mean, thank you for all the work that's done. Mike, your Teamsters unit, Ryan, if you would convey from us to the commissioners, to the staff, our appreciation for all that they do. It is a 24-hour operation. It doesn't close down. There's always work that's to be done, and it is a hard job. It is not easy, and it's well respected that the work that they do in protecting Shawnee County. And so thank you for your staff and going out and serving your team a meal. I know that you guys probably have all the grills and everything set up and fired up and going right now.
It is.
So,
Thank you, and I will convey that,
you.
sir.
Brian, I want to echo what these two gentlemen just said. I know that your staff makes a lot of sacrifices to do the job. I don't think people realize, I mean, it's a 24/7 job, and I certainly appreciate all the men and women and all your staff, and please pass that on to
I
them.
will do. Thank you, sir.
Next year, could you order up some better weather? It
Yeah.
seems like it
The
rains
last 2
every year
years-
when you do that.
Last 2 years it's rained. I think in the last 5 years, we've had one day that it's been sunny, so we'd much rather have this in the back parking lot in the picnic setting, but we'll be in our training room and stuff like that, but staff do appreciate it. They get as much as they want to eat and stuff like that. I do have some staff that, oh, this is a good day to either get ordered to work overtime, or they sign up for overtime on this. And we do have quite a few staff that come in on their off time to come in just so we can say thank you. And again, it's not what they deserve. They deserve much more, but this is something we enjoy doing.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Commissioner Mays.
Well, so I know that we were all in attendance at the big announcement at Washburn last week, where it was announced that cost will no longer be a barrier to entry at Washburn for graduates of Shawnee County. 2 scholarship initiatives were announced. One was any student in Shawnee County that graduates with at least a 2.0 GPA, I believe, gets an extra $1,000 scholarship per year. This is in addition to their GPA-based matrix that they use now. So then they also created I believe it's called the Shawnee County Promise Scholarship, where anyone below a certain income level is guaranteed a free education at Washburn. And so very, very cool thing for our community, and I hope that people take advantage of it. Rather than looking to other communities, they can stay here and get their college education for free.
I think a certain amount of that even applies to Washburn Tech as
Yeah,
well.
$750 a year is what
So
they said.
that's very good. It'll be interesting to see how that affects enrollment and see if it takes a jump. Commissioner Cook.
You know, while we have Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities, and Ledon Welch, the Court Administrator here, I just want to thank both of them for their patience in the courthouse renovation project. If you were to go over to the Shawnee County Courthouse currently, it is very much under construction. The ceiling tiles are gone, there's open venting, but court is still going on. So we have courtrooms that are functioning. Thank you for Cindy and all that they're working and making sure they're working through all of the issues. We have weekly meetings to talk about our construction deadlines and where we're at, and to make sure there's continuity of those court services and court functions that are going on. And the courts have been very patient and working through very rough circumstances in some cases, and power shutdowns and power coming back up. And so I just want to thank Ms. Henning for all that she does and working through that, Cindy, and being that conduit between the courts and the contractor. And so thank you for all that you do.
We had a JADO meeting last night. It was a good meeting. We aided a company in moving. That they have to move due to the Pope Quincy Viaduct project, and they're happy with their new facilities. So that was good to be able to help them out. I wanted to say too that we will not be having a work session on Monday. Let's see. I have next item.
Item 7, executive session.
We do have a need for an executive session. I will move that we go into executive session for a period not to exceed 2 hours and 45 minutes for the following reasons: to discuss employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with a representative or representatives of the public body or agency, specifically in regard to negotiation with the Teamsters. We've set aside 20 minutes for that item. And 2, for consultation with the attorney for the public body or agency, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, specifically regarding possible acquisition of property. Set aside 25 minutes for that. And 3rd, to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel, specifically to conduct performance evaluations of department heads, and that will go from 10 o'clock till noon. No action is expected at this executive session. So,
Till noon or till 12:45. If you're asking for 2 hours and 45 minutes, it's almost 10 o'clock. Or at least that's what the clock says.
Yes, I would agree that
When
our,
we're
Okay.
starting
All right.
So
Till
going to
12:45.
with the balance.
All right, we'll set that.
and I would ask that the motion contain a proviso that action could happen as a result of the executive session.
Okay. That's my motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Rippon, seconded by Commissioner Mays. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carries 3-0. Let's start. Jim, did we have a start time on that?
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. Let's start at 10, like 10:10. Will that give us enough time to do our paperwork? Okay, we are back in session. No actions taken at this time. We're adjourned.